Okay, so I'm talking to you from the car park at the council house in Atherstone, and it was a very, very long council meeting tonight. It's my first time at budget setting, and a lot of the budget's been decided in committees as well, capital spending on this and staff costs on that and so forth. But tonight was the publicity stuff, the things in terms of the things that get the headlines, where each of the political parties set out what they think the bit of extra cash on the fun stuff should be spent. And I turned up this evening and I bumped into, outside the entrance there was a gaggle of councillors from the Conservative group. And I really don't want to talk about this in party political kind of senses, because I'm really bored of the party political stuff that seems to go on. And if you want to be bored and upset generally by such things, if you're disgusted by people playing games, then by all means cover the watch coverage of tonight's meeting. It's all on YouTube. Anyway, there were basically two proposals on the table, one that came from the Conservative group, and I was told as I walked in tonight that I'd be pleasantly surprised by what was there. And I asked why I should be surprised. Why isn't this information shared in advance? And they said, well, that's just the way that it is. So anyway, there were two proposals. One that basically came from the Conservative group, that had a lot of money going towards a leisure facilities in Atherstone and Polesworth, a dump track in Dordon, and some money for various other bits and pieces. And that was accompanied by a increase in council tax for North Warwickshire. And actually, the amount that North Warwickshire council taxes as your overall council tax is pretty small, actually. Most of it's for Warwickshire, and a fair chunk is for the Police and Crime Commissioner, and it's about the same amount as the Police and Crime Commissioner for your borough council. And that was for the maximum increase that you can have without any kind of special consultation of 2.99%. But I look through these aspects, and beyond a £15,000 pot for each ward that would be controlled by councillors, there was actually nothing that was of distinct interest or benefit to most of the people in Water Orton. Yeah, a new leisure centre would be great, but it's in Atherstone, and most people wouldn't travel to Atherstone. So I know some people do, yeah, I'm not saying that, but the vast majority of people in Water Orton, if they want to go swimming, probably aren't going to be coming to Atherstone. So, no, I don't. And therefore, my feeling is that why are we paying an extra 2.99% for extra spend in areas that don't really benefit the people who I represent? The Labour group's offer had a lot of things in there that would potentially benefit issues in Water Orton. So issues in relation to parking. They would be trying to fund a reduction in council car park season tickets from £600, which means that our car park's empty, to £200, which would be of interest to people who are presently parking in the street, either residents or people who are using residence spaces. So, and that was only targeted at less than £5,000 to try and do that, because the increase in income that it would generate as well. Housing, is that I know the amount of requests that I had when there's any talk of, low cost social housing or, subsidised housing. Well, not subsidised, but, like when they're talking about, housing that would be more accessible to people with a connection to the local area and the old school. I know that the inquiries that I've had how to get on that list, five trips about what the housing is going to be. So they're forming of effectively like investing in trying to create some kind of housing association would have been a benefit. There was also the aspects as well, is that around the leisure facilities were sort of like met and by both kind of aspects as well. But there are a couple of others, and if you look at my Twitter feed, you'll be able to see what they were. Now, I spoke, and I'll put a link to what I spoke on. And interestingly, the spend on this was, considerably more than the Conservatives. Not least because they were putting another £1 million in investing to save, so that actually some of that could have come back. But it was costed, and it would have come out of reserves mainly. But the council tax increase was 0.0%, so no council tax increase at all. Now, this doesn't necessarily sit easily. I don't want something for nothing, and if we're going to invest and there's going to be aspects that support Waterorton, I think that we can pay towards them, and I think our work could justify that if the benefit was out there. I can't justify a 2.99% increase so I get a 15 grand fund to spend within the village or to share that increase with my other councillor, should he be able to come back. So I was sort of stuck in one way, but I eventually voted, because the way that the amendments came, the vote for the Labour budget was first, and I voted in favour because I felt that there were aspects there that were necessary and that would be a benefit to the village. That failed. I was tempted to abstain on that motion, but the fact is that I was going to vote against the Conservative proposal that raised council tax, and there was no increase in relevant spending really for Waterorton and the people I represent. It would have gone towards supporting aspects for elsewhere in the borough, which is fine, but I get the feeling is that nothing's coming towards Waterorton coming forward, although I will lobby for it. And I've sort of made that clear. So maybe next year I'll be putting forward proposals for things that we want to see in our village, and let's see if other people are prepared to pay for us. Anyway, the vote then went on the Conservative group, and the Conservatives, supported by the Dordon Independents, got their budget through. So next year, your budget will be, your council tax from North Warwickshire Borough Council will be raising by the maximum of 2.99%. But I voted against that. So if you've got any questions, you want to challenge me, then I'm more than happy to have those discussions. One thing that I did make the point of, though, is that wouldn't it be better if we can have these discussions earlier and outside of the meeting where we can go and take consultation? The leader of the Conservative group, quite rightly, put forward the fact that there's been a survey done of residents in North Warwickshire, and their proposals are based on the outcomes of those survey responses. But the amount of survey responses from residents in Waterorton was 30, and I've not seen them. And I could have spoken to more than 30 people as to what they thought about it, or gone and put it out there, with a couple of weeks' notice. And these things have been out there for a lot longer than a couple of weeks. I don't think they've been done that. So to have the discussions and adjournments of hours and horse trading and whatever, it's pretty unseemly, and it's not acceptable. And the party politicking that went on, and the behaviour of some of the councillors in the chamber tonight, talking over each other and not listening to what each other's had to say, I thought it was really, really poor. Let's hope that can be better. I'm certainly going to try and rise above it, and I'll call it out if I see it. So anyway, that's less than 10 minutes. It's been a long evening, but I hope you're well. And if you've got any advice, any guidance, or any queries that you want to raise with me, or you've got any suggestions, please do let me know. Take care. Bye-bye.